I'm Nick Sararis. This is the Theory of Hockey. This week, we start our first project of season 2. I'm going to save Connor Bedard and the Chicago Blackhawks. I might not be Kyle Davidson. I am not in a position of authority. As far as I know, I have not been hired as general manager, president of hockey operations, or as a lowly intern by the Chicago Blackhawks. But through the magic of EA Sports' NHL video game franchise, which is largely a joke now, but still has some value for these types of off-season simulations, I am going to embark on a very specific journey. We are going to take the 5-year window afforded to us by Connor Bedard's 5-year, $15+ million per year contract as an edict. Can I win the Chicago Blackhawks a Stanley Cup before the end of that 5-year deal? So, to set the stakes and to lay out the ground rules for this experience and for this operation, they are very straightforward. Number one, we are going to simulate the NHL season that just finished. I will not be changing or modifying the outcome of the 2025-2026 NHL season in simulation. There is no point in playing that out. Upon the conclusion of that season, we are going to give Connor Bedard the 5-year, $15.5 million contract he got in real life. Now, this is where rule number 2 comes up. Because the EA Sports video games do not account for revenue growth over a period of time, the salary cap always stays the same. So if I were to give Connor Bedard that $15.5 million contract, that would be against the cap environment of 2025-2026 in perpetuity. As players around the league continue to get paid more, as they rightfully should, as they improve, as young players age out of restricted free agent or entry-level deals. So, to account for this, we are going to do some envelope math each of the next upcoming 5 NHL seasons. Now, we have the NHL cap number for 2026-2027. It is over $104.5 million. We cannot customly set what the cap ceiling is in the video game. So what we are going to do, through the magic of EA Sports, we are going to turn the salary cap off, and we are going to use the real life salary cap ceiling of each of the next coming seasons. Now, we do not know what NHL revenues will be over the course of the next several seasons. We have heard some lofty estimates as to what the salary cap situation could be 2 or 3 years from now. We have heard numbers as high as $125 or maybe even $130 million over the next several seasons based on how the cap revenue plays out. So in the interest of rationality and in making this somewhat of a challenge and not just allowing me to go out and acquire big ticket players and forcing me to develop and to take risks, we are going to account for a certain fixed rate of growth. We'll be somewhere in the ballpark of $5 to $8 million per season over the course of the next few seasons as our cap increases throughout the lifetime of that contract. So without further ado, I am going to minimize myself into a small box, and we are going to go through the mechanics of this first season. This first episode is going to be us setting the scene. We are going to simulate this past NHL season. We are going to get up to the start of this past NHL draft, the one that was 2 months ago, this past June. We will do free agency, and we will set the table for what the team is going to look like in 26-27. And then next week, we will start our first season with games played. Now, I am not going to be playing 82 regular season games and playoff games. That is not the point of this exercise. We are going to jump in from time to time in the playoffs, should the Blackhawks get there, for the purposes of watching. We will talk over gameplay. I myself will not be playing any games in this franchise. The point of this exercise is to build a team, to demonstrate team building concepts, and talk about hockey along the way in a low stakes environment that allows me to flex some of my ideas, that allows me to take advantage of the Elgato capture card I've had sitting on my shelf for a number of years and haven't really used a whole lot beyond a couple of streams during the playoffs a couple years ago where I would stream gameplay and then talk about the games that day. So without further ado, I am going to cut here and then we will jump in. Hi, me again. We are ready. Like I said, the salary cap is off, but we are operating under the existing cap structure we know that is coming on the horizon. So for this upcoming NHL season that's going to start in October of 2026, or now I should say September because we're up to 84 regular season games, we are going to be working at $104 million. With that in mind, we are going to sim through the past NHL season. Now, what happens here is largely inconsequential. If anything, this is only going to muddy the waters further, because if the Blackhawks do better than they did in the regular season, we're going to get a worse draft pick in this upcoming June draft that just passed by, and we won't have as good of an opportunity to improve the team. So we are going to go over to the calendar. We are going to sim all the way through to the end of the NHL regular season, and we are going to see how the Blackhawks do. Now, along the way, if we are offered trades, if players go on waivers, we are going to take advantage. When the trade deadline comes around, if there are players of value on our team that we can sell off that other teams are interested in, we are going to pounce. Our goal is to win a Stanley Cup by the end of the 2030-2031 season when Connor Bedard's 5-year, $15.5 million contract expires. We are going to give Connor Bedard that contract after this season ends, when we can offer him as much money as we can, and we are going to put ourselves in a position to try and win the Stanley Cup in 5 years. I don't necessarily want to manage the players' personalities or morale. We've kept those settings on because it doesn't really make sense to turn them off, but I am not particularly worried about that yet. This season that just passed is in the past. We cannot change what has already happened. Like in the Avengers, like what the Hulk says, when you go back in time and change the past, that's your new future. That's the way we're operating now. So we're going to get to the end of this regular season and we are going to deal with the consequences, whatever they may be. We will scout, we will draft, we will put our team in a position to be as successful as possible as quickly as we can. And we are going through this simulation, and the Blackhawks are actually off to a pretty solid start. Now, when we talk about where the Blackhawks are operating and what the issues are at present, they have a lot of young players they have drafted over the last couple of years. I wrote something about this a few weeks ago for the Theory of Hockey Substack about, can Connor Bedard be saved? Is one franchise player enough? One of the things that jumped out at me was the fact of the 18 skaters that are going to start on the Blackhawks opening night roster, according to Daily Faceoff, were drafted by the Blackhawks organization. Even more of those were guys drafted in the last 5 years, which is part of the rebuilding process. But one of my big critiques over the last couple of years of Kyle Davidson and the Blackhawks at large has been around the fact that they haven't really put complementary pieces around around their best players in Connor Bedard. Now, I like Frank Nazar a lot. I think Frank Nazar is going to be a really solid second or maybe supporting first line caliber player. That makes things difficult. We do not, as the Chicago Blackhawks, have any interest in claiming Ross Johnston on waivers. Thank you, though, EA. I appreciate it. We are in mid-December. The Blackhawks are now under 500, and they are looking like a team that is going to end up picking in the lottery. That is what our expectation was for this season. Now, putting the Blackhawks in a position to win in a video game is far simpler than it's going to be in real life for Kyle Davidson. The development tricks in this game, the development tricks in video games in general, are largely associated with playing time. In any of these games, if you want to cheese the results, if you want to get favorable outcomes, you just need to put the players in a favorable position. For a long time in the EA Sports Madden franchise, if you ran the Dallas Cowboys playbook, they had a very pass-heavy offense. Your quarterback would always end up throwing for 4,000 plus yards, 35 touchdowns, because the game simulation was based on the playbook. The volume of plays that were pass-centric made the simulation run a more pass-heavy simulation and put your quarterback in a more favorable position. Here, in this game, where we could, in theory, just juice the numbers, the playing time of our players and put them in a more favorable position, that might not necessarily yield good team results. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Nick Jensen, who is getting up there in age, a little bit old on the wrong side of 30 as far as a defenseman, somebody who has been a good NHL defenseman in years past for a third and a fourth round pick. I am not interested in doing that at this time. I would much rather have the draft picks for more liquidity. Now, a year or two from now, if a Nick Jensen type player became available, I could see a world where we would be interested in that. We are not going to make that trade. No, Ottawa. Leave me alone, Steve Stais. John Klingberg for a third and a fourth. Again, In a year or two, this is the type of move we probably would make relatively close to the trade deadline, where we would need that extra defenseman to put us over the hump. Now, simulating through the Olympic break in this game, not as fun as it is in real life. The Olympics were a godsend for hockey fans. I really wish that the game had a mechanic where you could have the Olympics in an NHL season in the video game, but I imagine there are some licensing issues with the IOC as far as having the Olympics in the game, but they really should. I know they have some of the World Cup of Hockey mechanics where you can set custom international tournaments, but it's not the same thing. I want to have the Olympic branding. You know, it was a really big deal last decade when the NBA 2K franchise got the rights to the Dream Team. Now, we are going to be sellers at the trade deadline. There is no question about that. Now, let's enter the trade deadline and let's see what we get as far as opportunities to improve our team. Jack Hughes, what is going on in the simulation? Now, unfortunately for me, I said I wasn't going to be altering the past, but according to the way this simulation is playing out, the New Jersey Devils have been really bad. And with Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt on the trade market, as well as Vince Dunn and Dougie Hamilton, I am not going to jump in. As much as I would like to, and I would like to modify the past, I am not going to do that. Being that we are starting with the end of season rosters, being that we started this simulation with the end of season rosters, where the Blackhawks have traded both Jason Dickinson and Connor Murphy to the Oilers. They've received Andrew Mangiapane and those Blackhawk picks in return. We are not changing anything. We are going to exit the trade deadline. As much as I would like to try and get Jack Hughes on this team and get us to a world where we could have Jack Hughes and Connor Bedard all on the same team, I am going to do the responsible, the mature thing. I'm going to keep my integrity, and I'm going to get us to the offseason with as close to a roster as the Blackhawks had entering this past offseason. And then we can jump in and start to work our magic. Now, the Blackhawks are not doing terribly in this simulation. At 32-30-4, they are not in dead last in the Central. They are not going to be probably not a top 5 team in the draft lottery. Now, we're getting towards the end of March. We are getting up there as far as the end of the regular season. We are not going to qualify for postseason play here, so we will simulate through the postseason expeditiously, and we will get ourselves to the draft where we will have our first real decision of this franchise. But as far as the simulation goes, this is a pretty solid result for a Blackhawks team that doesn't have a lot of proven talent. Beyond Bedard, you're talking Burakovsky. The back end in particular is really interesting because I think that's the greatest opportunity for growth. And I think part of why Kyle Davidson made the ill-fated Bowen Byram trade. I personally will not be trading for Bowen Byram. Now, if the opportunity presents itself to acquire a player of that caliber, presents itself to maybe acquire Bowen Byram, we will not be paying the rate. Now, the Blackhawks ended up having a decent regular season. All things considered, the Blackhawks made the playoffs in this simulation, which is crazy to me. The Blackhawks this past regular season were really mediocre. They were not a good hockey team. So, first real problem we have had. Number one, the Blackhawks made the playoffs. The Blackhawks are up 1-0 over the Colorado Avalanche, who won the President's Trophy in real life. Now, again, this goes to show you the limitations of a video game. The Blackhawks roster is not very good. When you look at the Blackhawks roster and what they went through this past season, for the idea of them making the playoffs, even as the last team in, is ludicrous. The fact they were able to take a playoff game off of the Avalanche is crazy. The fact they took 2. You know what? Maybe I was overrating how hard this job was going to be. Maybe the players are the problem. If last year's Blackhawks team could take 2 games off of the Avalanche in the simulation, maybe this video game isn't the best way to prove my point about how much I know about hockey. But alas, okay. This is crazy. The Blackhawks have dragged the Colorado Avalanche, the President's Trophy winning Colorado Avalanche, to a Game 7. You know what we're going to do? We're going to go into the bag. We are going to go into the X-Tech bag. We are going to sim the game in real time, and we are going to watch it play out. We are going to sue the Super Sim game outcome. We are going to do what I have watched many a new YouTuber do in my day, where they simulate the game in real time. Okay, Devontae scores first. Not great. So we are going to do this where we sim at 4 times speed as we go through. And we're just going to wait to see what happens, because I am imminently fascinated in a world where the Blackhawks can get the Avalanche to a game 7 with the roster they just had. And look at Frank Nazar. Okay, if the Blackhawks win this series, if the Blackhawks get to the second round of the playoffs in the throwaway year, maybe I need to be more aggressive than I was thinking as far as my roster building goes. Okay, 2-1 after 2, 3-1 in the second. This is not going as well as I had expected it to. Brett Kulak scoring on Spencer Knight is not great for my agendas, but it does look like the Blackhawks magic carpet ride in the simulation is going to end in game 7 of the first round against the Avalanche. But that's nothing to sneeze at. For a Blackhawks team in real life that was picking in the top 5, to go out 5-1 is not the end of the world. That's something you can live with. Now, we're going to get through this as quick as we can because, frankly, this is a little tough as far as game results. But it was a nice run. I'm very glad they were able to get here. I am happy that the Blackhawks got this experience, because our young guys, our Connor Bedards, our Artem Levshinovs, those are the guys who need this. They need the experience of getting their teeth kicked in a little bit by the Nathan McKinnons and the Cale Makars of the world. So going out 8-4 and we're only in the second period is crazy. The simulation in this game might just be cracked. Granted, the Avalanche are a really good team. The Avalanche not winning the Stanley Cup last year with the amount of talent they had is kind of crazy, in all honesty. The fact they lost as badly as they did to Vegas in the Western Conference Finals is kind of nuts. So we'll round out this for opening season, this simulation. We'll see if we can maybe close the gap, make the final score a little less embarrassing than 8-4. But this is a interesting result for our simulation, because now we're going to be picking in the teens of the first round. And we are going to be in a position where we probably need to be a little bit more aggressive. So the Blackhawks bow out 8-4 in a game 7. They didn't need to make. The Blackhawks making the playoffs at all, improbably, kind of nuts when you think about it. So we're going to sim to the end of the NHL season. We're going to sim all the way up here to close to the start of the draft. We'll see who wins the Stanley Cup, and we'll go from there. Okay, we are back in the mix. This is the draft lottery result. We are walking into a world where the Blackhawks, who in real life were a top 10 lottery pick, did make the playoffs. So they do not have that extra shot in the chamber I thought I would going into this upcoming offseason, which is not great. As promised, we are going to give Connor Bedard the full deal he took in real life. 5 years, $15.5 million. I would like to thank Connor Bedard for his willingness to continue with the franchise. He is going to win us a Stanley Cup. Bedard is taken care of. Frank Nazar is on the books. Let's real quick go through our contracts just to make sure there's no one important we are missing. Okay, so real quick, we can take a peek. So unrestricted free agent class, pretty subpar, just like in real life, headlined by guys like John Carlson, Jack Roslovic. Jack Roslovic's up to a 90 overall in the simulation. That's crazy. Brent Burns kicking in at an 87. Kopitar leaving the Kings, which is crazy. Giroux, a free agent. Patrick Kane, free agent. Trouba, Tuck, Laine, Zook. It looks like more or less what got there in real life. Let's take a peek at restricted free agents too, just in case. I don't think we're going to be making any offer sheets, but this is a good starting point as far as trades go. Someone like a Cole Perfetti, we would be interested in. Someone like an Alex Nikishin, we would be interested in. Beyond that, Jordan Spence is intriguing. I think there's an opportunity here. So we're going to go back. We're going to go back to the calendar. We're going to sim up to the draft. We're going to make our picks. We're going to go into free agency, and then we are going to try and set ourselves up for this upcoming NHL season. We are going to set ourselves up here because I think there's an opportunity. So let's look at our medium value veterans. Someone like a Teuvo Teravainen, who is not going to be here into the future, is an opportunity. Going into the NHL draft, this is our trade block. Ryan Donato, Teuvo Teravainen, veteran players who will not be part of the long-term future. And then our interim picks, our pick this year, our pick we have from the Panthers this year, and then our first-round pick next year as well, because I do think this is an opportunity for us to go out there and maybe swing something big. So let's make our draft pick. We're just going to go best player available. It's not the most exciting thing in the world. We'll go from there. So the Blues are picking first overall, Winnipeg. Montreal, who went to the conference finals in real life, picking third. The Devils, who who sold off Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt at the deadline. The Flames, who missed. Utah, who had a nice playoff appearance. San Jose. Buffalo, who went on a nice playoff run. The Flyers, nice playoff run. The Rangers, who were worse in real life. But this is an interesting sim result because we're picking all the way at 19th. The Hurricanes, who won the Stanley Cup, picking 20th. Nashville made the playoffs, which is crazy when you look at the sim. Seattle having the 2 picks at the end of the back half of the first round. We have that extra Florida pick back here. And then San Jose has that extra pick they got in a trade as well. So we are going to sim up to our first pick, and we are going to make our first selection. So when you look at a central scouting ranking, which is usually what I sort by, I usually sort by central scouting. I don't sort by potential. I don't sort by type. I sort by the scouting ranking. We need a franchise caliber player. Now, some of these names I recognize because they are real players. They're real junior hockey players. Like the name Dax Rudolph, I have heard before. And look, candidly, if you watch Theory of Hockey content or have read any of my work, you know, I am not a prospects guy. I leave that to the experts. They tell me who to take. Now, I do know the Blackhawks need defensemen. I know the Blackhawks could never not use a top caliber player. This is the best player available. His potential is only medium. He is a goal scorer, though. Or would we prefer Dax Rudolph? Now, if we take Dax Rudolph, we have to account for the fact we already have Levshinov and we already have Alex Vlasic. If we take Dax Rudolph, where is his opportunity to become a top pair defenseman to maximize? Now, if we take him here, we don't necessarily need to go out hunting for another defenseman. We don't need to go and trade for Bowen Byram. We don't need to go after a Brent Burns or a Darren Radish in free agency. I think I am going to take the star center because I am a simple-minded person. Now, we're going to sim to our next first-round pick. I will not be making anything beyond the first-round picks. Do I really need to take another center? No, but he's got elite, medium, second best, or offensive defenseman, Nikita Koistinen. Yeah, we're going to take the other guy with the picture. Maddox Dehanis is a crazy name, but I'll leave that at that. All right. We're going to sim to the end of the draft. We're going to sign our draft picks, and we are going to go into free agency. So this is a player we would like to keep. Kevin Korchinski is the type of guy who, in the simulation, could turn out to be pretty good. He's already got X Factor abilities. He's still pretty young. He's got elite potential with the medium opportunity to get there. A left-handed shot. This is the type of guy we're going to keep. So we're going to throw him 3.25 over the next 2 years, and we're going to hope that's good enough. We are not going to retain Matt Grzelcyk. We are not going to retain Ilya Mikheyev. We will not be retaining Sam Lafferty. This is a player we will keep. A 22-year-old RFA who's not going to cost a lot. We'll keep this. We'll give him the extra $200,000, lock him up right away. Former Maple Leaf, I think, Joey Anderson. We'll give him his qualifying offer. Qualifying offer. Let's sign our draft picks. Okay. We have qualified all of our RFAs and we have signed our draft class. Now we can go to free agency and we can see what happens. Korchinski stays. That's great. We are at 39 out of 50 contracts. We've given everybody who needs qualifying offers. We have signed all our draft picks. We are in okay shape. Now it's time to find out what we can do in free agency and see if we can help speed this process up even just a little bit. There is a world where Carlson makes sense. Roslovic would make sense at that price point at 3 for 4.5. Burns at 1x5. Kopitar at 1.4. Patrick Kane at 2x5. Not terrible. Line A, I wouldn't go 5 years on. Talk is interesting. Zook. Any goalies got there? Freddie Anderson, maybe an interesting idea. Let's look at our roster. Let's see if we can get Connor Bedard a real line mate. Let's go 3x4.5, 2x4.5 with Jack Roslovic. Let's see if we can upgrade that right side and we get Nazar, Roslovic, Bedard, and that's our new first line. Because that on paper should do pretty good in the sim. Roslovic has developed really well in the game as a 90 overall. I think it's a reasonable offer. I don't think there's anyone else, Radish would make sense, but we do have a lot of defensive prospects and we don't want to jam them up. Giroux, I will offer Claude Giroux 1x5. Claude Giroux at 1x5, I think, is a really good idea because that gives us a legit second line center to play behind Connor Bedard. And that might be it. We can look as far as potential goes, but yeah, I went through the entirety of unrestricted free agency. There's nobody particularly good in there that's underrated. I guess we'll take a peek at RFAs, but Seamus Casey is someone I've always liked in real life. He's someone I might just try and trade for instead of offer sheeting. Colton Dock is interesting. Sam Moskevich is interesting. Bobby Brink, Dylan Holloway, Adam Boquist, who's always hanging around. It's an interesting group of RFAs, to say the least. Let's go through the trading block real quick, too. Okay, Kreider, James Hagens, that's a shout. Okay, let's flag that and come back. If we can get James Hagens from Boston, we're going to do that. Colton Ellis, backup goalie, maybe. Calgary, none of their young guys. Bradley Nadeau, interesting. Scott Wedgwood, okay. We have Spencer Knight, so I don't think we need Wedgwood, but that's a good goalie to be out there. Columbus, nothing. Dallas, no. Bernard Docker, I like in real life, but he doesn't look like he's going to be much in the game. Ike Howard, someone I like a lot in real life, but doesn't look to be a whole lot in game. 22, medium elite. Connor Clanberg, I like a lot in real life, but let's see, Florida. Doughty, end of a walk year, $11 million. Nah, he's too expensive. Volstad, Hyatt, no. Right now, I'm thinking we try and go and get James Hagens. Is that Chase Reed, maybe? That is Chase Reed. Maybe we try and swing a trade for Chase Reed. They got Fowler on the block. Nashville. I don't think... Olofsson is not a terrible stopgap idea, but he's got a bad contract. Bratt and Hughes are there. We might have to try and trade for Jesper Bratt. I'm going to be honest with you. Dougie's there. The Islanders. The Rangers. Oh, they got Caleb Malhotra in the sim at 10th overall. Hamalesh, the guy they got in return for Corey Terrence, Casey Terrence for Chris Kreider. Ryan Rust, Bloomquist, San Jose, just picks. Vince Dunn is not a bad idea. 1 year, $7 million. St. Louis is probably only picks. Toronto, nothing. Utah, Paterka. John Marino, I like. Liam O'Brien, who's good. Carcone, who's good. I think we go back and try and get James Hagens from Boston. Ilya Protas, Brandon Yeager. Okay, it is time to lock in. We're going to try and get James Hagens from the Bruins. In the grand scheme of things, I identify the core of this team going forward being Bedard, Korchinski, Levshinov, unless we get a good trade offer for him, Frendell, Nazar, Vlasic. Everything else I'm fluid on. All right, let's try him to start. Our first round pick next year is going to have a good amount of value. That already might be enough to get it done, to be honest. We might be able to just do a 1 for Hagens. Do we need Hagens that bad? Are we going to be a playoff team again? Because if we're a playoff team again and we have Hagens behind Bedard, I'm going to see if this works. That... Easy enough. I probably could have gotten Hagens for less than that, but we're going to have Hagens behind Connor Bedard, and we already are in pretty good shape. Now, we're going to sim another few days in free agency. We're going to see if we got any of those veterans, but I think we're in good shape. I think we have already put ourselves in a better position than the Blackhawks in real life because we didn't go out and give Bowen Byram a record-breaking deal for a defenseman. Roslovic went to Boston. We got Giroux, though. Okay. Going down the middle, we've got Hagens, Bedard, Claude Giroux. We are in great shape. That is a really strong foundation for a team that made the playoffs by accident. So I am going to sim us to the start of the next season, to the start of the preseason. We're going to look at the roster, and then we're going to call it a show. This is the lineup we are going to enter the 2026-2027 season with. Teuvo Teravainen, who I didn't really still want to have, but is still here and still 84 overall. Connor Bedard, Claude Giroux. Really solid veteran experience, compliment for Bedard. Our second line is not great. Bertuzzi and Burakovsky are two guys I would like to try and trade over the course of this upcoming season to give younger guys an opportunity. Nazar, I think, is going to end up playing here long-term. He'll be the Connor Bedard right wing long-term. Bertuzzi can hold it down for at least one more year. The bottom six, again, still leaves a lot to be desired. Frondell, Donato, Joseph, Nick Lardis, Oliver Moore, Mangiapane, another guy we don't really want to have here. Defense. Korchinski, Levshinov, Vlasic, Crevier, Kaiser, Rinzel. This should be pretty good by the end of the season. I think in the simulation, this defense is going to be pretty good. And then as far as goalies go, Spencer Knight is going to be more than fine. I don't really have a worry about Spencer Knight. And then our last piece of business, we are going to make Connor Bedard the captain of this team. Claude Giroux is going to be a one-year alternate. And that's it. It's that simple. Going into the 2026-2027 season, we have Teuvo Teravainen, Connor Bedard, and Claude Giroux. Tyler Bertuzzi, Frank Nazar, Andre Burakovsky. Anton Frondell, who is going to be on this line by the midway point of the season. We are going to make a concerted effort to trade Burakovsky and Bertuzzi. Matthew Joseph is a placeholder. Donato is a placeholder. Oliver Moore is going to take this spot. Mangiapane, we're going to try and dump for a mid-round pick later in the year. Lardis is a former high pick who still has some potential. That will just about do it. But let's think about our decisions. So we got a proper running mate for Connor Bedard and Claude Giroux. Even at Giroux's current age, he's going to do very well in the sim. Our defense on paper has a lot of upside, a lot of potential. We have a really good goalie in Spencer Knight in net. We are in a position to be a fringe playoff team this year. Our goals include trying to trade Burakovsky, Donato, and Teravainen, getting more picks, and then using those picks to be aggressive out there in the trade market. This is a bubble playoff team with the roster they had. They overachieved last year in the simulation, and they put us in a position where maybe we could have been a little more aggressive this year. But year one of a 5-year plan, we don't need to go crazy. We didn't need to go after Darren Radish. We didn't need to take on Drew Doughty's money. We went and we traded for James Hagens. We need to get James Hagens under contract. We need to get his ELC signed, and we need to get him to the NHL because he's going to be our second-line center long-term. Frank Nazar is going to go to the right wing when Giroux retires, probably at the end of this season. But come back next week to see how year one of the Connor Bedard experience goes.